It was an unseasonably warm Saturday in late October, the kind of day that made the autumn leaves glow with vibrant colors. I had planned on a quiet weekend at home, relishing the peacefulness that settled in when everyone was away. My husband was out of town on a business trip, and my stepson Alex had mentioned he would be visiting friends. I thought the house would be blissfully empty. However, as the day wore on, I received a text from Alex. "Hey mom, I'm going to be home for a bit." Friends cancelled. The simple message sent a ripple of surprise through me. I had always maintained a cordial, if somewhat distant, relationship with him. It was challenging to navigate the complexities of blending families, and Alex had always kept me at arm's length. Despite my initial surprise, I found myself a bit excited at the prospect of spending time with him. I hadn't really gotten to know him since my marriage to his father, so I texted back, "No problem, feel free to come home." When he arrived, I was in the kitchen preparing a late lunch. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air as I chopped vegetables, and I turned to greet him. Alex walked in his usual hoodie and jeans, giving him a laid-back look. "Hey," he said, a slight smile crossing his face. "Hey, want some lunch?" I asked, gesturing to the table. "Sure, sounds good," he replied, settling into a chair. The conversation started off light, school friends, the weather, but as we ate I felt a strange tension in the air. It was as if the atmosphere was charged with unspoken thoughts. After lunch we cleared the table together. I noticed how he moved around the kitchen, confident yet reserved. There was something in his demeanor, a hint of maturity, that intrigued me. As we washed dishes we talked more openly, and I found myself enjoying his company far more than I anticipated. "Do you have any plans for the rest of the day?" I asked, rinsing off a plate. "Nah, just hanging out." "You just some chores, maybe watch a movie later." He paused, turning to face me. "We could watch a movie together if you want. I mean, it's been a while since we spent time just the two of us." I felt a flutter of unexpected excitement. "Sure, I'd like that." As we settled into the living room with popcorn and blankets, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was shifting between us. The casual banter continued, but there was a newfound openness. We shared stories about our lives, our dreams, and even our fears. I learned that Alex had ambitions of becoming a graphic designer, a passion that seemed to ignite a spark in his eyes. Eventually, as the credits rolled on, a light-hearted comedy, I realized how much I had enjoyed our time together. There was a connection for me, an understanding that had been absent before. The atmosphere in the room felt different, charged with a sense of possibility. As the evening wore on, I felt a strange vulnerability wash over me. I had been so focused on being a stepmother that I hadn't allowed myself to see Alex as more than just my husband's son, but now he felt like a person in his own right, and I found myself drawn to him in a way I hadn't expected. "Thanks for hanging out," he said. As the credits rolled, I didn't realize how much I needed this. "Me too," I admitted, my heart racing at the unspoken words hanging between us. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a day that would change everything. After our movie marathon, the atmosphere in the house felt different, almost electric. Alex and I had shared laughs and moments that seemed to bridge the gap that had long existed between us. As he moved to grab another handful of pop corn, I caught a glimpse of him from the corner of my eye, and a strange flutter danced in my Stomach, do you want to play a game? I suggested, trying to keep the mood light and friendly. Sure, what do you have? He replied, enthusiasm lighting up his face. We settled on a classic board game, the kind that sparked friendly competition as we played. Our conversations flowed more easily, punctuated by laughter and playful banter. I found myself increasingly captivated by his wit and intelligence. Each joke he made felt like a gentle push against the boundaries I had built around my heart. The afternoon melted into evening, and I suggested we make dinner together. Cooking had always been a favorite activity of mine, and I was eager to share it with Alex. As we chopped ingredients and stirred sauces, I noticed how we fell into a comfortable rhythm. The kitchen became our little sanctuary, filled with the scent of garlic and herbs. You know, you're a pretty good cook, he remarked, watching me as I sautéed the vegetables. Thanks, I enjoy it. My mom always said it's a way to show love, I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me at the compliment. Guess I inherited that from her, he said with a wink. It was moments like these that made me forget the societal norms and expectations surrounding our relationship. I caught myself stealing glances at him, appreciating the way he moved, the way his laughter filled the space. I was painfully aware of the line we were skirting, but the connection felt undeniable. Dinner turned into a feast, and we sat down to enjoy the meal we had created together. As we ate, I sensed a deeper conversation brewing beneath the surface. What do you think about everything happening in your life right now? I asked, hoping to peel back another layer. He sighed, his expression growing more serious. Honestly, it's kind of overwhelming. School expectations, everything. Sometimes I feel like no one really gets it. I get that it can be tough, I responded, hoping to convey my support. Just know you can always talk to me. A silence fell between us, thick with unspoken words. The tension grew heavier, almost palpable. I could feel my heart racing as I met his gaze. There was an intensity in his eyes that sent a shiver down my spine, and hint of something more than just familial connection. As the evening wore on, I suggested we watch another movie, something lighthearted to keep the mood from shifting too drastically. But as we settled onto the couch, our bodies closer than before, I felt the weight of the moment pressing in on us. The film played, but I found myself distracted, acutely aware of his presence beside me. There was an intimacy in the air, a shared understanding that seemed to transcend our roles. Every accidental brush of our arms sent a jolt of electricity through me, and I fought to keep my mind from wandering to places it shouldn't go. Can I ask you something? Alex said, suddenly, his voice breaking the spell of silence. Of course, I replied, my heart pounding in anticipation. What's it like being a stepmom? I mean, really. The question caught me off guard. It's complicated. I want to be there for you, but I also know I'm not your mom. Sometimes I worry about overstepping. He nodded thoughtfully, his expression serious. I get that, but you're really cool. I appreciate you trying. The sincerity in his words sent warmth flooding through me, and I felt a strange mix of pride and affection. Thanks, Alex, that means a lot. He shifted slightly, and our eyes locked for a moment that felt suspended in time. I could see the question swirling in his gaze, mirroring my own unspoken thoughts. The tension in the room intensified, and suddenly the distance between us felt like a chasm that begged to be crossed. Just then the sound of the front Door creaking open shattered the moment. My heart raced as I recognized the familiar footsteps of my husband. Returning home. "Hey, I'm back," he called out, his voice echoing through the hallway. Alex and I exchanged a quick glance. The bubble of connection we had built suddenly bursting. We both shifted, scrambling to re-establish the distance we had just begun to bridge. "Let's play it cool," I whispered, trying to steady my racing heart. "Yeah, good idea," he replied, the spark in his eyes dimming just a bit as my husband entered the room. The weight of the day hung heavily on my shoulders, the unspoken moments lingering in the air like a ghost. I knew that this was only the beginning of a complex journey, and I could only wonder how it would unfold with my husband home. The atmosphere shifted back to normally. We chatted about his trip, and I tried to mask the tension that still simmered beneath the surface. Alex joined in, but I could sense the unspoken words lingering in the air between us like an invisible thread, connecting our earlier moments. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that our connection was both exhilarating and precarious. After dinner, I found myself alone in the kitchen tidying up the remnants of our meal. Alex wandered in, and our eyes met for a fleeting moment. "Thanks for today," he said quietly, leaning against the counter. "It was nice," I replied, heart racing. "I'm glad we could spend time together." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "It felt different, didn't it?" I nodded, feeling a rush of emotions. "Yeah, it did." Just then my husband called from the living room. "Hey, can you come help me with this?" The moment shattered. I turned back to the living room, a mix of relief and disappointment washing over me. Alex watched me go, his expression unreadable. I felt the weight of what we had almost crossed hanging heavily in the air that night. As I lay in bed, my mind replayed every moment we had shared. I knew I had to tread carefully. The line between stepmother and friend was blurred, and I couldn't ignore the connection we had formed. The days that followed were marked by a tension I had never felt before. Every shared glance with Alex carried weight, and each encounter felt like a tight RPP walk. I was hyper-aware of how our interactions shifted when my husband was around, and the atmosphere felt like it could snap at any moment. One afternoon, while my husband was at work, I found myself alone with Alex again. He had come home early, and I was in the kitchen preparing lunch. As I chopped vegetables, I felt him enter the room, his presence both comforting and unsettling. "Can I help?" he asked, moving closer to the counter. "Sure, just grab some plates," I replied, trying to keep things light. As we worked side by side, our shoulders brushed occasionally, sending little jolts of electricity through me. I focused on the task at hand, but I could sense Alex watching me. The weight of our unspoken connection hung in the air. After lunch, we moved to the living room, the tension palpable. "Can we talk?" he asked, his tone more serious. "Of course," I replied, my heart pounding. "I don't want to pretend anymore," he said, searching my eyes for understanding. "I feel like we're missing something important." I took a deep breath, grappling with my emotions. "I care about you, Alex. I really do, but we have to be careful. This isn't just about us. I know that, but it feels real. I can't shake it off," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. I looked at him, conflicted. "What do you want me to say? That I feel the same way? Because I do. But there are boundaries," he nodded, his expression softening. "Then let's figure this out Together we don't have to rush anything. But we can't keep pretending nothing's happening. The vulnerability in his voice struck a chord within me. I realized that the connection we had forged was not something I could easily ignore. You're right, we need to be honest about what we feel, but we also need to be smart about it. Just then the front door opened and my husband called out, "I'm home." We exchanged a quick glance, both of us feeling the weight of the moment. The door to our conversation closed, but the tension lingered like an unresolved chord. That night as I lay in bed I felt torn between two worlds. The connection with Alex was undeniable, but it was also a path fraught with complications. I had to find a way to navigate this delicate situation without losing sight of my responsibilities or the bonds that mattered. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that the journey ahead would require courage, honesty, and perhaps the willingness to confront the truths we both feared to voice.